did last time. So like she said, I'm Dr. Brandi Johnson. I'm a chiropractor here in New Boom. And so we're just going to dive right into hormones. Okay, we're going to start with what are hormones, some key players that we're going to talk about, kind of what they do, what happens when they get out of whack, and then lastly, what to do about it. And that's also going to be a lot where Brooke comes in to talk. So first of all, hormones are chemical messengers that tell the rest of your body what to do. Okay, hormones are going to regulate your periods. They regulate pregnancy, ovulation, staying pregnant, labor and delivery, breastfeeding, everything. They regulate your moods, your stress levels, everything. So everything kind of comes back to hormones. A lot of hormones are released from your brain, and they communicate to other glands, and they produce other hormones that make a lot of things happen. So that's the gist of hormones, right? They have a lot to do with your mood, how you feel. So the three players we're going to talk about is progesterone, which is your happy hormone, estrogen, and testosterone. Yes, testosterone is important for women too. Progesterone is called your happy hormone because it plays a lot with DHEA, which is a neurotransmitter in your brain that helps you calm down, it helps you be peaceful, it helps regulate sleep. So progesterone is your really, really big happy hormone. Whenever a woman is pregnant, that progesterone level raises up really high, which is why she has that glow, because she's full of progesterone, she's full of her happy hormone. Progesterone is produced during ovulation, which is why ovulation is really, really important, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. And progesterone produces three other hormones that we're going to talk about: estrogen, testosterone, and your adrenal hormones, which primarily what you'll know as like epinephrine, norepinephrine, and cortisol. So that is progesterone in kind of a nutshell. During your first 2 weeks of your period, or your monthly cycle, progesterone drops quite a bit, which is why you kind of feel sluggish, you kind of get nervous and anxious. It's because you lost your happy hormone. So if you have an underlying imbalance already, that drop of progesterone is going to be drastic. You're going to feel those symptoms really, really drastically. Estrogen is an important hormone for women especially. It's going to take a girl into a woman, right? That's how we develop breast tissue, that's regulates our periods. So estrogen is a really, really big player. And it's also very protective for your body, protective for your bones, your brain, your memory, your heart. It's a very important hormone, but when you have too much of it, it can create all kinds of havoc in your body. We're talking migraines, we're talking serious PMS problems, endometriosis, cyst in your ovaries, fibrocystic breast, which is like really tender, weight gain is another big one, just all kinds of things just from one hormone in itself. Let's see, another one, because one thing that we kind of want to hit home is painful periods is not normal. You know, I think a lot of times it's like, you know, you have periods and it's a part of the cycle, right? It's just painful, that's how it is. That's not normal, okay? We have a cycle that we go through, but we shouldn't be able to feel these drastic changes. And if you are feeling these drastic changes, it's really an indication that there's an underlying imbalance. Most likely going to be with estrogen. Another one that's going to be big, well, real quick on estrogen. So we have these imbalances. The main thing that I want you to realize, long term with an imbalance of estrogen, we're starting to see ovarian cancers, breast cancers, a lot of these cancers of your lady bit, so to speak, right? So that is why this long-term period of an imbalance is really, really important. Other kind of symptoms would be just chronic fatigue, chronic pain, migraine headaches, depression, all of these kinds of symptoms that you might think are just kind of up here. It's really, really a hormone imbalance.
Infertility?
Infertility is huge. Miscarriages is huge. The list goes on and on, really, of all different kinds of problems that we see, even just with estrogen. Another hormone is testosterone, which they think is kind of like the man hormone. It's actually really important for women as well. Testosterone is protective for your brain. It helps ward off Alzheimer's. It is anti-inflammatory, so it helps men not have to deal with chronic pain the same way women do. Testosterone is also important for your sex drive for both you and your husband. So without testosterone, women feel sluggish. Also, women are more prone to get inflammatory conditions like psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis that men don't see as much because they had naturally a lot of testosterone. So we don't have a lot of testosterone to begin with, so we need to take care of that little bit of testosterone that we do have, because just a little bit of a drop in it can make a big difference for us women. And then you end up back in that balance of too much estrogen, and you have a lot of problems with that. Now, too much testosterone obviously can still be a problem. Too much of anything is bad, right? So PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, that's from too much testosterone. Aggression can be too much testosterone, as well as like unwanted facial hair. A lot of that is a hormonal imbalance as well. So that's kind of your key players for hormones. So how do they get in balance? Well, there's a lot of reasons. I'm going to take a sip of water. The first one is the pill, oral contraceptives. So what these are, the pill is synthetic hormones. They have to use synthetic hormones because natural hormones get destroyed by the liver too quick. So they have to implement synthetic hormones. A lot of times how they make these is they add excess estrogen to progesterone. So your body basically thinks it's pregnant, so you have that increase of progesterone, fake progesterone. So you don't ovulate, so you can't get pregnant, but then you also have this excess fake estrogen that creates all those other problems. So with the pill, you're not going to naturally ovulate, so your body isn't producing its own progesterone. It's not producing its own precursor to all those other hormones that we talked about. So you're going to have an immediate crazy imbalance just from taking the pill. So there's just a lot we can talk about even with that. So the hormonal problems with the pill continue on too for the next generation. So you have this excess estrogen for women who finally become pregnant. I say finally become pregnant because normally the longer a woman's been on birth control, the harder it is for her to get pregnant because she's had this crazy hormonal issue for so long. She ends up having to take, infertility drugs, and that's more fake hormones, and it's just kind of like the cycle continues. And that's why you'll see a lot of miscarriages a lot with black too.
Hi. Welcome, welcome. Okay, we'll film you. So have a seat, please.
Give her this box. Okay. So some of the long-term effects of taking the pill when it gets passed on to other generations, not even just the pill itself, is a big player, but estrogen dominance in general. Women who have children, their sons tend to have, kind of feminine behavior. They have low sperm counts. They even will develop breast tissue themselves from that estrogen being passed down. For the girls, we're seeing girls with, early production of breast, that's not an early blessing. At 8 years old, that's a problem. 8 years old, even younger, are starting periods. Then they kind of create this cycle of imbalance as they go on to have children and so on and so forth. So we're seeing more women, past now the 60s are over. Those women are now in menopause, and they're having horrible, horrible menopausal symptoms from their years of, using these drugs and having these synthetic hormones, and it's just crazy, creating havoc for them as well. Contraceptives also, just on a side subject, for women greatly increase their chances of stroke and heart attacks. It's actually, I forgot the percentage, it's a really high percentage. So even just because it just creates those havoc from the dangers of excess estrogen. Another way that hormones get in balance is stress, which is a huge one. We could talk a while on that, and we won't. But so just how stress can impact your hormones is that we are on a constant cycle minute by minute. Okay, so let me explain that. There's a precursor to the hormone that ovulation starts in your brain, right? So that hormone gets released every 5 to 25 minutes on the hour. About 1 to 2 hours every 5 to 25 minutes it starts releasing, okay? Then every 90 minutes, the hormones directly related to ovulation gets released. Yay. So this is a constant cycle that's going on minute by minute. Now, before these hormones are ever released, your hypothalamus checks with another part of your brain called the limbic system. Your limbic system is the part of your brain that stores memories as either good or bad, protective, dangerous. And it does that to protect yourself, so you're not constantly getting yourself in a situation that's dangerous for you, okay? So your hypothalamus checks with your limbic system and saying, hi, okay, what kind of status are we in? What's the emotional status? Are we in fight or flight? Are we sympathetic? Are we, stressed out? Before it ever even releases those hormones for ovulation. So, in other words, your body's not worrying about reproducing, it's not worried about ovulating if you're too busy having a fight with your sibling, or you're rehashing a fight you had with your sibling or your husband. Because rehashing it in your mind is the exact same thing as having that fight over and over again, right? Emotional traumas have the exact same effect on your body as actual traumas. So that's why stress is so important in hormone balance. Okay, so when you get stressed out, cortisol is going to go up, and that's your stress hormone. Remember, progesterone makes testosterone, it makes estrogen, it makes your adrenal hormones, cortisol being one of them. So if you're stressed out for various reasons, your body's producing a lot of cortisol. So progesterone is being used up by cortisol, so it can't make these other important hormones because cortisol is running amok. So that's very, very important. That's why essential oils are so huge for stress, because it helps tone down those cortisol levels, gets you kind of mellow out so you can kind of refocus. That's why even just forgiveness is so important, right? Because even just, thinking about somebody who caused you harm, you're reliving that memory. You're getting stressed out just thinking about them or seeing them. Those hormones are not working the way they're supposed to. So there's everything, your mind-body connection in terms of your hormones is huge, 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 huge. And I know Holly's also going to be giving a talk in April, or you're giving a talk in April over, the mind-body and just kind of rewiring those thoughts so that you're not having to constantly stay in this stressed out mode, so your body can work the way it's supposed to. So stress is huge. Let's see. Also, cortisol is also a problem just in weight, because cortisol, those stress hormones, kind of encourage weight to be added into your abdomen. So that's also why cortisol and stress is so important just in weight management. So keep that in mind also. Another way that hormones get disrupted is not giving your body the proper ingredients, okay? So the hormones that we've been talking about mostly are steroid hormones, which means that they're made from cholesterol. So you have to have proper cholesterol to make these hormones. That's why, the fad of low-fat diets have been so dangerous, particularly to women, because they haven't been able to make their proper hormones, men and women, but we're talking about women's hormones. So that's why, proper diet and giving it the ingredients that it needs is very, very important. You also need a lot of certain minerals to make these hormones. Zinc, for instance, is needed to make testosterone, so you have to have that mineral. Zinc is also protective for testosterone, so it keeps testosterone from being broken down into estrogen in the body, which you definitely don't want to have if you already have too much estrogen. So zinc is important. The pill, we've already talked about some of the dangers with that. That pill alone robs your body of many vitamins and minerals that you need. So even taking that, you're robbing your body of even more minerals and vitamins to make other hormones it needs. So it's just kind of this really cascade that just keeps going and going and going. So one primary mineral that the pill robs from your body is magnesium. And magnesium's kind of coming a lot now. They're seeing it a lot for depression, because the deficiency in that can cause so many other symptoms. We're talking like muscle aches, just not being able to sleep, anxiety, all kinds of issues just from one mineral imbalance. And oh, do you? Awesome. Yes, magnesium is so huge. Even just from a biochemistry level, you need magnesium for so many other functions in your body that if you don't have that mineral, those other functions don't happen. So you can't produce energy, you can't produce ATP the same way. So just that mineral alone is huge. And it all comes back to balance, because you have to have a certain balance of minerals in order to be able to make that, because other minerals and other things can knock those minerals out of your cells. So it's kind of, minerals are a big, big player. You also need certain minerals for proper thyroid function, which your thyroid is really, oh, I think you can tell I'm thirsty, huh? I'm so thirsty.
She has too much to say. It's so awesome.
And water is one of the things we need.
Yes, yes, water is so important. Yes. Yes, I'm so thirsty. It's just so excited. There's so much in here, but we just can't talk about it all. So yes, you also have to have certain minerals for thyroid function, which that is important for metabolism. That is important for weight management. So it's a big circle, right? Heavy metal toxicity is also a big thing, because that can block your cells from being able to get the proper minerals in. So if your cell is held up with toxic things, you can't get the minerals in, you can't make your hormones, you're stressed out, and so then it's just, you see this cycle, you see this crazy cycle. Food, obviously, food is also a really, really big thing, and we need to eat proper types of food. So meats now, they're adding a lot of hormones. Some of them aren't adding hormones, they're just genetically modifying them so that they are able to reproduce early. They add a lot of estrogen to meats, beef, so that they can easily or quickly be able to reproduce. Fish in the water, they're drinking the water, they're swimming in the water that also has these contraceptives in there and all these other drugs that are in the water. We tend to hopefully drink filtered water that gets a lot of these out. Animals aren't so lucky. No one's giving their cattle filtered water that doesn't have these extra hormones and everything in it. So we're eating the cattle that are eating and drinking all of these other hormones. So food is going to be huge. Let's see, sugar. Sugar is very important. It's toxic to your body already, and it creates all kinds of crazy stuff in your brain. But sugar itself, just one boost of sugar can drop your body's testosterone levels by 25%. And we talked about why testosterone is so important for your sex drive, for anti-inflammatory properties, to protect your brain from Alzheimer's. So even just sugar can shut down that level by 25%. It's huge. So sugar is going to be huge.
Good sugars?
Well, good sugar is one thing. I'm talking like white sugar.
Okay.
You know, like the chemical sugar.
We can enjoy our snacks.
Yes. Yes, that won't mess up your testosterone the same way. Plastics, I know that's becoming really huge. There's a chemical in your plastics that help make it soft and pliable, and that chemical in it that we know as BPA mimics estrogen. So it's able to attach those receptors and affect our body the same way that just having too much estrogen does. There's other chemicals that they're trying to replace estrogen with. I really can't pronounce it very well. It's in a pamphlet we'll give you later. But so you really, plastics are just not safe, especially, you know, when you're storing food in them. It's really dangerous. Receipt paper actually has a chemical in it like the plastic does that actually affects your hormones too. So there's a lot of just daily things that we're adding into our bodies that affect our hormones. And remember, we talked about, you know, our cycles are not monthly, they're minute by minute. So we are constantly having hormones in different stages that are being, you know, released from our brain down to our ovaries. And if we're, you know, reaching for the receipt paper, using plastics and eating these meats full of hormones, we are creating a constant overload into our system of what's going on. It doesn't even know what to do. We're stressed out, cortisol levels rise, nothing works right, even just from these daily little life things. There's also plastics in a lot of our fragrances, not the essential oils fragrances, but fake fragrances have endocrine disruptors in them. Plastics like cheap clothes that just are, you know, they tend to have a high plastic level that gets into our water supply from washing them. We're wearing them on our body all day long. That disrupts your endocrine system just from like those little plastic particles. Pesticides is another big thing. So most pesticides, actually I'm thinking pretty much all of them now, are oil-based, because farmers got tired of rain coming down and washing off all of their pesticides, so they added oils to them. So oils are really hard to get off of your fruits and vegetables. Just water alone isn't going to do anything. You have to have something like vinegar, like white vinegar, or something like soap to actually wash those off, highly alkaline water, something like that to actually get those pesticides off, because just rinsing them doesn't do anything, and then you're just eating it even more. So pesticides is a good thing to avoid whenever you can. EWG.org has a pamphlet that I brought with me that is their dirty dozen list of endocrine disruptors. Like I said, I have a copy with me that you can look at. Go on their website, look at that for all the different kind of chemicals that are in different daily products. And also, Holly's giving a talk next month over, was it funk-free living? She's going to talk all about how to do that.
Into that.
Yes, yeah. So all these little subjects, you know, could be dived in so much deeper. And so stay tuned for that as well. Nope, I'm out of water. That's okay.
No, you're not.
No, thank you so much. So we talked a little bit about what hormones are, some of the big players, how they work, what happens when they don't work. So now how do we fix it? Well, yes, I know that's the important part. So I'm a doctor of chiropractic, so my first go-to is going to be chiropractic adjustments, which you're probably already thinking, what does that have anything to do with any of this, right? Most of us look at chiropractors as, you know, they fix back pain, neck pain, and headaches. Yes, we're great at that. But chiropractic is about the brain, okay? Every adjustment, thank you so very much. Every adjustment affects the brain immediately. So, oh, I thought you saw this more water for me. So, your brain is constantly trying to communicate with the rest of your body through your nervous system, through your spinal cord, right? We're kind of familiar with that. So whenever you have an interference in your nervous system, there's communication from your brain to the rest of your body that is not happening, right? It's kind of like having somebody in the road stopping traffic. Communication is not able to get through. The cars cannot get through. So how chiropractic works is able to get rid of that interference. So your brain can actually communicate with the rest of your body to tell it what's going on. So that kind of alleviates some of that confusion. You're able to get down to the root issue of what's going on. So now all of a sudden your brain's like, okay, as soon as you get that adjustment, your brain's able to know, okay, now I know what's going on. It's communicating. The cars are getting through. The communication channels are opened back up. And you'll see a lot of chiropractors, who move the bones themselves, do manually, because your body starts getting out of alignment. Well, I practice a certain type of technique. It's a tonal technique, and it's actually fires. It's an instrument that fires at the same speed of the nervous system. Your brain's able to take that information and able to align the body naturally. It aligns your body itself. So it's actually giving you the information that it needs to help heal yourself, align your body the way that it's supposed to be. So that's how chiropractic is a part of this. Communication channels aren't working, endocrine system's not working, miscommunication fires. Another thing that I do, we talked about mineral imbalances. So another thing that I offer in my practice is hair tissue mineral analysis. Okay, thank you. And what that does, your hair doesn't lie, right? You'll hear that in the court systems. Hair doesn't lie. They'll take the hair samples and they'll figure out all the information about, people, criminals and so on, and victims. And it's able to tell us the mineral balances, and not even just minerals, what's actually flowing through your body, but in what ratios. Because it's not just enough to have the minerals, they have to be in proper relation in each other to have synergy, to actually work appropriately. So for instance, 90% of Americans are calcium dominant. So we have calcium that's kicking magnesium out of the cells. That's actually one of the big reasons outside of the pill why a lot of us are decreased in magnesium. You also can't get the other things into your cell if you have too much of one mineral versus another. So balance is key. So that's one of the services that I do is we take in a whole mineral analysis panel, it's not all your minerals, about 33 different minerals, see the relationship, see what's working, what's not, what you need more of, what you need less of. Gives you a biochemical panel of your metabolic type, foods that you need because of your metabolic type, and supplements that you need based solely on your mineral profile and your biochemical profile, and not just taking a whole lot of them. I know I took a lot of magnesium because I knew, I needed it. I was never actually able to absorb the magnesium because I had too much calcium in my body. I also, because of that, wasn't getting phosphorus that you need to make different adrenal hormones. So everything is related. So that's something that I do, and I'd be happy to help any of you with that. Just come see me afterwards.
So taking the mystery out of it.
It definitely takes the mystery out of a lot. It takes the mystery out of nutrition, in terms of just what you need, in terms of allergies and all kinds of stuff. So it's really, really informative. And so that's a little bit about what I do.